What's going on, guys? So welcome to the video. So today I'll show you how to create this broken animation in After Effects and take your editing gains to the next level. And without much further ado, let's dive right into After Effects. Alright, so in After Effects, the first thing I'm going to do is to add my text. So I'm going to use the text tool by pressing the Command T, that's for the keyboard, that's the keyboard shortcut for the text tool. I'm just going to type in the text. And the most important thing is the effect we're going to use to create this shatter effect. And the name of the effect is shatter. So I'm just going to go under the effects and presets, then shatter, and add it onto the layer. So after adding it up, you're going to see something like this. So I'm going to change that up. Under the effect controls, you're going to find the shatter effect and its properties. So starting with the view, we are going to change this to render, and then we'll move down to render, which will allow it at all. Then from the shape property, this is where it gets interesting. So I'm going to open this up, then change the pattern to glass. So this will give you some kind of broken glass effect. So let me just move ahead and you will see it. It's now looking like a glass as compared to this. When it was a brick, you will see it will have some kind of brick shapes. So glass is what we are going to aim for. The next property we are going to change is the repetitions. So for now it's set to 10, and the repetition, what this does is it just determines the amount of broken particles. So the more you increase this, the more particles you're going to have. So setting it to 50, you're going to see the difference. Now going under the origin, you can change the direction in which this has an effect on. So for example, if I click on origin, no, let me first of all play this so you see. So when it's broken, you see it starts from the center and it goes out. But if I come right here, then click on the origin, that's this right here, and I change this to about, let's say here. Now you see that it changes the pattern in which this has an effect on the text. And moving forward, we are going to change this extrusion depth to about 0.5. For the extrusion depth, it just like increases the particle's length. So you can prefer to reduce this or increase it depending on what you're aiming for. So I'm going to close this up. I'm just going to skip first one for now, and I'll get to it later on. Then I'm going to go under physics. So for the physics property, we have some other interesting properties under it. So for example, this randomness. And the randomness, just from its name, you will know what it does. So I'm just going to set this to about 0.5 just to increase the randomness in the particles. Then for the viscosity, that's how you want it to like be animated. You can set this to any amount, but I'll set this to 0.5 too. Then moving down to the gravity, I'm going to set this to 0, so no gravity. I don't want any gravity. So just play around with all of these properties and try to like, when you change any property, you play it back to see how it affects the animation. I'm done with these physics properties. Then I think I'm done with everything concerning the animation. So this is everything you need to create the shatter effect. Then we are going to take this much further. So to take this further, I don't want the animation to start at the very beginning of the layer. I just want it to start somewhere around here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the first property, and under the first one property, you're going to find some properties under like the depth and radius and the strength. So starting with the radius, this is what determines where the animation starts, or where the shatter effect starts. So if I set the first keyframe for the radius, then I move somewhere around here and set in the second keyframe by pressing U to view all of the visible keyframes. I'm going to set the second keyframe right here, and back to the first keyframe, I'm going to set this to 0 so that it does not have an effect right here, but when it arrives at this keyframe. Then we can change the strength to about, let's say 10 or even something more, just depending on what you're going for. So I think 10 works for me. Now, after setting this up, you now see that if I play it from the start, we have something like this. So it does not start again from the very beginning of the layer. And from the sample that I showed you at the beginning of the video, the shatter effect didn't have an effect on all of the text, but just on its particular portion. And to do that, I'm going to add in a solid layer by right clicking right here, new, then solid. And for the color, it should be white and hit on OK. Now I'm going to hide this layer up, then create a mask. But before I create a mask, I'm going to position my playhead right here. Now, pressing G, that's a keyboard shortcut for the pen tool. I'm going to create a mask and make sure that the solid layer is selected before I create the mask. Then I'll select the layer below, open up the gradient property, and under the gradient property, I'm going to find a gradient layer, which I'm going to set this to white solid. And for the source, I'm going to set it effects and mask. And then for the shatter threshold, I'm going to set this to 1%. And if done correctly, you see that you have an effect just on top of the mask or the selected area of the mask. Now, This is looking somehow boring because this is somehow chunky and stuff like that. But we can take this even much further ahead. So to do that, I'll first of all duplicate this layer below. That's Command Z. With the layer that I've duplicated, I'm going to change some of these properties. So starting with the shape, I'm going to change the repetition from 50. And remember I said the more you increase this, the more particles you have. So if I set this to about 200, we have a lot of particles right here. But now if you notice, the particles are somehow having some kind of long length, which is not really looking good or interesting. So we can set this to about 0.2 so that you'll have some short length and it's going to look more of particles than chunks. Now after that, I'm going to open up the force property and I'm going to increase the force to about 15 so that it just like explodes all around the scene. Then I'm going to close this up, move down to physics, and under the physics we have the randomness, which you can set these to, let's say 0.2, and that's looking closed up. We don't want that, so let me just increase this to about, let's say 0.7. That's too much, so let's just say 0.6. I think 0.6 would be the best value. That will work. And for the viscosity, we are going to reduce this instead to about 3. That's 0.3. Yeah, something like that. Under the gravity, I'm not going to change anything, and I think that's everything that we need to change up to have this cool looking effect. The final thing we're going to do is just to offset this a little bit so that it does not come in at once. So we have this main layer before the little particles layer. So let me play this one more time for you guys to see. Now, one other thing is you can add in any other mask that you want by just selecting this layer. Then you can just choose a shape tool and we just create a mask like so. And now we have the effect on this other side too. So it's just very easy to do. You just need to like select the layer, then you create your mask on it, and you're going to have a perfect shatter effect on top of the object, but also your graphics or anything that you want in After Effects, so long as it has a transparent background and it's good to go. So that's how you can shatter your objects in After Effects using the Shatter tool. And that's it for today's video. Hope you found the video useful and interesting. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video to support the channel grow. Thanks for watching, and on to the next one. Keep editing.